Welcome to The Messy Truth. I'm Van Jones. First off, God bless Coretta Scott King. Now, no matter what you think about Elizabeth Warren reading her letter on the Senate floor and getting in trouble and all that stuff, you know, America really does need to give a lot more shout-outs to that young widow. She spoke the truth to power for decades after her husband, Dr. King, was murdered, and it took an awful lot of courage. America always needs those bold truth tellers. So guess what? Tonight, we've got one of America's bravest, boldest, baddest truth tellers right here. Bill Maher will be with us for the full hour tonight on this stage. We got Bill Maher. We got Bill Maher. I love it. So we got a lot of stuff we're going to talk to Bill Maher about, but I want to start with this travel ban. So here's the messy truth. Both sides have got a ton to learn about this debacle. Number one, Donald Trump. He says he needs a ban to keep us safe. I don't agree with him, but let's just take him at his word. There is a right way, Mr. President, and a wrong way to do anything. If something is this vital to American security, you got to handle it competently. Don't skip all the steps and forget to consult the right agencies and mess it all up. Nobody knows how this travel ban is ultimately going to work out in the courts. But here's what we do know. You've gone from one bad move, banning 7 countries by ambush with no real process, to another bad move, tweet attacking a judge, which is completely unpresidential, to another bad move, saying the media doesn't cover terror attacks, which we do, and on and on. The ban's just like this banana peel. You just keep slipping on and slipping on. That is not going to work. A pattern of mistakes like this could consume your whole presidency. You got to stop it. Now, for the liberals, here's your messy truth. Your basic argument is actually helping Donald Trump. That's right, you're helping Trump. Liberals say Trump is injuring American values. And Trump says, I'm trying to keep terrorists from blowing you up. You see how your soft, lofty argument kind of helps Trump seem more tough and practical? Meanwhile, the liberals sound like they're social studies teachers. Resistance, there is a better way to do this. Why don't you just say this? Trump isn't just injuring American values. Trump is endangering the American people. The American president shouldn't be a recruiting tool for ISIS. America's best defenders are Muslims, in uniform, on the front line, translating for our soldiers, Muslims here in America, speaking up in the mosques, picking up the phone, calling the cops. Trump should work with the Muslims, bring them to the White House, and find a way to really undermine the bad guys. That would honor American values. It'd also save American lives. Something for both sides to think about. But apparently, I'm not the only one who is confused about what's going on here. Let's hear from one of the sharpest minds in American politics and how he thinks about this whole situation. Watch this.
Way back after our last show, which was only a week ago, he instituted this Muslim ban, which he called a ban, and then his press secretary, Sean Spicer, called a ban, and then there were protests, and they denied it was a ban. And then Trump tweeted, well, you can call it a ban if you like. So they're really on message, and the message is we have no idea what we're doing.
All right, this is a huge honor for me. Bill Maher has become the leading critical voice in the age of Trump. Please welcome to the stage a national treasure, the man who is trying to make America sane again, the legendary Bill Maher. Welcome to the stage in the house.
Thank you. Well, that was very sweet of you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
My goodness, it is an honor.
And the man.
Honor to have you here,
Oh,
sir.
honor to be here. You're doing great in your new job.
It's good.
Isn't it great to get fired?
Hey, listen, you know
We
what?
both got fired and came out smelling like a rose.
We should call our shows Lemonade. You know what I mean? They gave us lemons.
That's right.
But we got the lemonade. Now, speaking of lemonade, I'm sure from a personal point of view, from a political point of view, this whole Trump thing really sucks. But as a professional comic, is this guy like a gold mine for you or what?
Well, of course, he is. The problem is, how long can it go on? I mean, we're only in the first month of his presidency.
Like the first couple weeks.
And, I mean, I have a little fatigue about it.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to talk about Trump. I'm going to tell this to my audience this week. We also have to not talk about Donald Trump.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, there's one guy who is definitely not talking about Donald Trump or thinking about Donald Trump. What do you think this guy is feeling right now?
He should run again and tell us that's his twin brother, Dave. Dave Obama.
Dave Obama.
He had a twin.
Exactly.
We already looked into the birth certificate, so they won't find anything there. Trump will send his investigators to Hawaii. By the way, how's that investigation going?
Yes,
How's the one into the 3 million illegals who voted? Remember, you know, it's like he's looking for O.J.'s killers. I mean, the real killers that O.J. was looking for on the golf course.
Yeah.
These things, he says them, and then they disappear into the ether.
They do, and a lot of stuff he says, though, is pretty alarming. But actually, there's some stuff he says that I would think that you kind of like. You know, you've been really tough on radical Islam. You've been sometimes even tough on...
Shouldn't we be?
Well, I'm just saying. Right? Yeah, sure. I mean, it's hard to be fans of ISIS, but you've been tough on them. You've even been tough on refugees at times. On that point, why isn't Trump your best president ever? I mean, he's going after him.
But as you said, he's going after them in the wrong way. I mean, the Muslim ban is not a great idea. It's un-American, and it's not helpful. It's just going to make things worse. What we should do, of course, is just be liberals on the issue. That's the big picture. We are liberals. We should be for equality of the sexes.
Yes.
Respect for minorities.
Yes.
Separation of church and state. Free speech. Right? You're
Right.
liberals. These are all big liberal things. Okay. Well, we have to recognize the fact that, you know, the most, very often illiberal, intolerant cultures in the world are in the Muslim countries. People are not crazy to be worried about assimilation. But Americans are very myopic. They only seem to see what's in America. There's like 3 million Muslims in America.
Yeah, 5, yeah.
They're not the problem.
True. Yeah. I mean,
But there's over 1.5 million around the world.
$1.5 billion.
1.5 billion around the world. Okay. So yeah, I think what we should do also is cheer when there are Muslims elected to high office in the West, like the mayor of London.
Absolutely.
Because then they have to say, hey, I am for Western values.
Exactly.
Like that mayor came out against women wearing the face veil. That we need to hear more from Muslims. We need to ask more of them.
Well, I'll tell you what, I am very, very proud of American Muslims, as are you, on the front lines doing such a great job. We have, like, the most amazing Muslims in the world, as best I can tell. Some of them are...
Talk to who you speak.
Oh, like, for instance, a lot of times when people are, we stopped a terror plot, sometimes the people who turned them in were actually
Absolutely.
Muslim, doing exactly what you want.
The chicken stand dude.
The chicken stand dude, exactly. It's like, hey...
That is an American hero. You're right.
Yeah.
That is a patriot.
Exactly.
When you put country and people's lives over your own family,
Yeah.
it's like the Unabomber's brother turned him in.
See, and
That's hard to do. What?
Well, if your brother's a Unabomber, you probably could call the cops yourself.
Family is pretty powerful.
Family can be very powerful.
Right.
But I actually want to bring somebody into this conversation who has a different view of Trump than me or you. He's a pastor. He's here in Los Angeles. Let's hear from Reverend Mark.
Good evening to you both. It's so good to be with you, Van and Bill.
He is a pastor.
Yes.
Yeah, I am.
He's lulling us in, isn't he?
Americans are now subject, truly, to increasing forms of terrorist attacks on U.S. soil. You may know just last week, last Thursday night, in fact, a man described as Latino or Middle Eastern with a heavy beard, dressed in black with a beanie, tossed an explosive device into the Cheesecake Factory in Pasadena, California, where I eat. Radical Islamic jihadists have vowed to kill Americans, in part by infiltrating the refugee population. We must simply weed out the bad so that we can accept the good. Don't you agree with that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, when they go after the Cheesecake Factory,
They've crossed the line.
Americans.
They've crossed the line.
That's a red flag we cannot accept in this country. Yes, of course. But the question is how? And being, yes, realistic about it. But again, I don't think that the problem is mostly here in America. And also, I mean, a ban is so silly because it's something, it's ideas. You know, it's not most of the attacks we've had in America, I think, are from people who are already here. The Orlando killer. He was here. He wasn't coming in from Yemen. He grew up here, did he not?
He did. And part of the
And
thing...
he talked about our filthy ways.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some of that in religious people's heads.
Well, I'm a religious person. It's not in my head, but before...
No, and the religion, I mean, I'm an atheist. Sorry,
Yes.
Reverend.
Yes.
But, you know, all religions, in my view, are stupid and dangerous.
Well-
but in different eras, they take the lead at being...
Well, here's what I
Why don't you let me finish this point? You just hate someone saying bad things about religion? You can't do that on CNN? What is it, the Spicer White House here? That's my point of view. It's the point of view, by the way, of millions and millions of people in the world.
Absolutely.
And in this country. Religions are down all over. Why? I'd like to think I had something to do with it.
Well, you have a documentary, you got a book, you've been on the
Oh, yes,
I wanted to ask you this question.
You just won't let me. Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
My only question is, because you actually are a progressive, and I think you want progressives to win elections, the African-American community is overwhelmingly religious, and such a big part of the turnout operation is the black church, black religion. So when you say all religious people are stupid, aren't you kind of putting down the
I didn't say all
base?
religious people are stupid.
Yes.
I said all religions are stupid.
Okay, fine. So Dr. King was a black Christian, and the black Christian churches, 92% of black folks voted Hillary Clinton, mostly coming out of black churches.
My only loyalty always is to the truth. It's not to a group of people, or it's not to ratings. It's the truth. That's the truth as I see it.
Yes.
And by the way, again, this is a more and more common view. Is anyone here in this audience atheist, agnostic, or just doesn't want to get up on Sunday and go to church? Yeah. Oh, they're raising their hands. Quite a few. Applaud. You can actually applaud. Here's the people. Yeah. That's America now.
Yes.
Okay? It used to be this thing where, oh my God, he said this on CNN and we can't allow. No, this is America, and we have to realize that fact. So anyway, the point I was going to make is in the 16th century, it would be Christianity that I would be going after for being way too intolerant and way too violent, because that's the age of the Inquisition, and they were. Now, that really is more Islam than Christianity. Like I said, I think they're both dumb, and religions are all dangerous, but at this time in history, one is just more violent, more intolerant, and more dangerous.
If you were saying this, a lot of people see the United States, even though you're right, you're an atheist, but a lot of people see the United States as a Christian nation. When they see those
They should not.
But I'm just saying,
Plainly, we are not, and we weren't founded that way.
But they don't put the hand when they take the oath on the Bill Maher DVD set. Yeah, they will. But right now, when they put their hand on, it's the Bible. And so when we drop those bombs, et cetera, I think sometimes it does seem like Christianity is somewhat violent.
Okay, this is another area where the Trump White House approach to this problem is wrong. The counterweight to radical Islam is secularism. In Steve Bannon's world, it's Christianity. He's super Christy on this stuff. I saw him go. Christy, we can't say that. It's not a word. Reverend, let's get the ref in here to talk about whether that is allowed. Upon further review, Van, we can say super Christy. And no, that the counterweight should be secularism. It shouldn't be that they want to make this a battle between the two religions, who, by the way, have been going at each other for over 1,000 years. This does go back to the Crusades. I mean, it ebbed and flowed in history. But that's the one thing we do not want. And of course, it's the dumbest thing. Trump's going to do it.
Well, listen, I want you to stick around. We got a lot of other dumb stuff to talk about when we get back. We're going to talk about Elizabeth Warren. She was silenced by the Senate, but you got conservatives being silenced on college campuses. We're going to break down the messy truth about free speech in America when we get back. We are back with Bill Maher. So here's a messy truth. Freedom of speech is under attack from the left and from the right. Just this week, Senator Elizabeth Warren was silenced in the Senate. They literally ordered her to sit down and shut up after she read a letter that Coretta Scott King had written 30 years ago opposing the nomination of Jeff Sessions for a federal judgeship. I personally am glad that she, quote unquote, persisted. But like I said, it's messy. It's not just the Republicans. You got a lot of people on the left who also want to silence people that they disagree with. And a few days ago, we saw these awful scenes on Berkeley's campus, violent protests against a controversial speaker. Now, obviously, I hate racist speech, but I hate the idea of riots trying to silence speech even more. So shouldn't we be able to agree on protecting free speech no matter who is speaking? That's what we want to be able to talk about. And we've got here with us one of the students who's a part of the College Republicans that organized this event that brought on those protests. Mike Wright is here. What's your question?
As a moderate Republican on campus, it's gotten to the point where I actually fear for my physical safety. We've had people attacked. My question is, how did it get to this point? And what can reasonable people on all sides of the political spectrum do to address this problem?
Well, I'm not sure how it got to this point, but I think it has something to do with bad parenting on the left. I do, actually. But just to put myself in context here, I've been on this issue since the 90s. I did a show called Politically Incorrect. I've been appalled at what's going on campuses all over the country for a very, very long time. Silencing people. Safe spaces. You know, campuses have these safe spaces, which really started out as, okay, here's a place where you don't have to worry about I don't know what, because I don't think campuses are that unsafe to begin with, but okay, sure. And then they sort of evolved now into, like, every place is a safe space, because we just do not want our precious snowflakes to ever have to confront an opinion that is different than the one they already have. And I'm telling you, this begins with bad parenting. With telling your kids you should never undergo any moment that makes you uncomfortable in the least. Parents who negotiate with their kids, their children.
They're small, unemployed people who have no rights.
That's how it should be. So I don't know, that may be how it started, but whatever it is, it has to be reversed. And I feel bad for you, because I'm not a Republican, but yes, you should be able to be on Berkeley or any other campus in this country and not feel threatened and be able to speak out. And even more so, those kids should be exposed to other ideas. Well, liberals are not perfect. I'm the liberal who likes to say that.
And I like to say it as well, but we do have another student with a different point of view. Jessica Chase, you're a student at UCLA. You might see it differently.
Yeah, as a gay Jewish woman, I understand why safe spaces came up, and your initial point about why they initially rose is absolutely correct. On my campus, actually, we also were going to have Milo Yiannopoulos come and speak, and it was canceled because of death threats towards our Republican group, which is completely unacceptable, and I completely disavow that. At the same time, when you have this kind of alt-right, white supremacist, extreme social conservative viewpoint that's being brought up...
At UCLA?
Well, with Milo Yiannopoulos coming to UCLA. It seems like there's a line between free speech, which absolutely should be protected, I want my right to free speech just as much, and between hate speech where it's specifically attacking individual students and calling them out for being trans or undocumented, various cases that have come up. And so I'm wondering if you think that there is any line to free speech, where it would fall, or if you think it doesn't exist at all.
Well, obviously there is a line. We know that. You can't, fire in a crowded theater, that kind of stuff. There certainly are people who I wouldn't book, but we did, I think, book this guy. And I'm honest, I'll be honest with you, I don't know much about him. This is the first I kind of heard of him. Some people have said to me in the last year or so, they mentioned that name, and I was like, oh, I got to look into him, and then I didn't. I think in general, sunlight is the best disinfectant. I mean, I think it's important to hear what people have to say, and then let people decide and see how awful they are. Well, apparently this guy is pretty awful. Yeah. But you got
a bigger set of concerns than just the campus thought. You think that the whole liberal kind of apology-orama world is sort of gone off the rails. So let's look at the Bill Maher take on this whole thing.
In 2016, conservatives won the White House, both houses of Congress, and almost 2/3 of governorships and state legislatures. Whereas liberals, on the other hand, caught Steve Martin calling Carrie Fisher beautiful in a tweet and made him take it down. I'm not making that up. That really happened. Here's Steve's offensive tweet. When I was a young man, Carrie Fisher was the most beautiful creature I'd ever seen. She turned out to be witty and bright as well. How could you, Steve? We thought we knew you, but this? You noted her appearance first, and then that she was witty and bright. You're a monster.
Yeah, I mean, that's out there.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff on the left, and it does drive me crazy because it's so lazy to attack your friends who are maybe not quite as evolved as you. I mean, that's just mental. All that stuff is. But there's lots of stuff like that where instead of attacking your real enemies, you go after people who are just a little bit behind. We're on the same team.
Yep. One of the things for me is you have people with the transgender fight has got to become a big fight. I've been a part of that for 20 years. But if you get it wrong, if somebody who maybe didn't even know it 6 months ago, they're going to come down on you.
A few colleges have canceled the vagina monologues because it wasn't feminist enough. Right.
How can you be more feminist than a vagina?
Because, man, talking about vaginas, and not every woman who identifies as a woman has a vagina. You just mentioned transgender. What about Caitlyn Jenner?
You know what?
She has a penis. How's she going to feel if she goes to the vagina monologues? You're a monster. I mean, this is what's crazy. They see a woman who is forced to wear the full burqa. She cannot even look out upon the world. And that gets nothing. That doesn't rise to the level of we're protesting that. But the vagina monologues, not including Caitlyn Jenner, that's where we go nuts. Well, this is a problem on the left, and they are going to have to deal with it because they lost the last election. Yeah. Okay, you lost. It would behoove you to look in the mirror.
I see why your show was called Politically Incorrect. I love it. So listen, I want you to stick around, and I want the audience to get your questions ready. Audience, when we come back, I want to talk about this. How can the Democrats dig their way out of this hole? And I also want to ask whether or not Hollywood liberals are helping the cause or hurting the cause when we get back. Welcome back to The Messy Truth. We're here with Bill Maher. Now, it's safe to say that you took the election results really, really hard. Here you are right after the election.
Oh, yeah.
It's tempting to want to divide America down the middle right now. I've actually been in the bad roommate situation where you literally got white tape and made a line through the middle of the apartment. It's something they've tried on many, many sitcoms over the years, starting with I Love Lucy. Lucy on one side, the Spanish-speaking immigrant on the other. She just wanted to make the living room great again. You can unfriend someone whose politics you don't like, but you can't unfriend 47% of America. Roommates can move out. Patriots can't. America needs you more than ever. Right here, with me and the rest of the resistance. Until we can figure out how to really make America great again, and don't ever let them forget, we're still here.
That was an amazing show. I mean,
Thanks.
I just want you to, on behalf of the country, that was an amazing show. But here we are.
Made a fortune on those hats. Thank you.
But, you know, with 3 months later, honestly, is it worse than you thought? Is it better than you thought? Where are we?
It's somehow exactly what we thought, and yet 10 times worse. Because it wasn't like we weren't sick of him by the time he got elected. I mean, it had been going on for a year and a half.
Yes.
And Donald Trump does not wear well. You know, I mean, you cannot keep up with the number of crazy things he says. It's all about him throwing a fit because his daughter wife had... We say daughter wife, Reverend... No? Oh, that one. Christy he was okay with, but this one, before the yellow flag. His daughter wife, Ivanka, had her jewelry taken out of department stores. So, like, when he's supposed to be getting the intelligence briefing, he's tweeting about this. I mean, there's more than I can almost handle on a weekly basis of the crazy stuff, the stuff that's just made up. You know, the murder rate is the highest in 47 years, and the press doesn't cover terrorism. This just happened since my last show. I mean, this would be enough for an entire administration with a lot of people. So, yes, it's worse because I guess there was a glimmer of hope that when he walked into the Oval Office, somehow he would be transformed, but I don't know anybody who really thought that.
Yeah, so here we are now. Mr. Mike Sarian, I think, might see it somewhat differently. What's your view about this whole situation?
I love you, Bill, and I
Thanks.
love every joke
I love you
say.
too.
However, President been in office barely 3 weeks. Why can't you guys in the media and Hollywood give him some slack? Let him do his
Because of what
job.
he's done and said.
Barely did only 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
Give him a break. Can't you
Give him a break? What?
Give him a
do you
break.
read
Let
the
him do
news?
the
Do you
job,
follow?
which is the toughest job on earth.
The toughest job on earth has never been done like this. First of all, this is beyond the realm of politics. If you're just talking about politics, okay, let's pretend that it's just politics. I would have big problems there because it's a giant con, what he's done. He ran for the little man. And then what does he do? He gets into office. The coal companies can dump sludge in the river. Because, you know, that's what the little man is aching for. Undoing Dodd-Frank. Because so many of the town halls in Appalachia, people were standing up and saying, Mr. Trump, please get rid of the Volcker rule. Because if I can't make certain speculative investments, it's killing us here. So that's just the political part. We could have a normal conversation about that. But this presidency is not about the political part, even 3 weeks in. It's beyond politics. It's about sanity. It's about somebody who makes stuff up, who doesn't read. His information is either anecdotal or pulled right out of his, what word, Reverend, should I, his behind. You know, of course we're worried when the president sees multitudes that don't exist, as in the illegal people, the illegal voting 3 million. That should bother you, sir. I'm not the crazy one here. The one who's, what is it, the mall, remember, as soon as he was inaugurated, it was all about size. This guy must have a problem in the, you know, in the sensitive area. He insisted we had photographs, you know, and his Sean Spicer gets out there and just winds up saying, this is what the president believes. In other words, you're on your own, folks.
Alternative
The king
facts.
is crazy. and he says there's an Easter bunny, so we're all looking for eggs. So this kind of stuff, where he absolutely believes things that are not true and then backs them up and gets defiant about them. Here's 3 words that could really calm me about the president if I ever heard him say them. I stand corrected.
Wow.
Do you think we'll ever hear that? That's what mature people do and presidents do.
But let me ask you a question. You know, you are brilliant at this stuff. You have people who are also on the Hollywood side. Every award ceremony, I guarantee you this year is going to be a similar kind of a rant, not as smart or as good, but there. Do you think that the little guy wants to hear all these Hollywood celebrities, including you, ranting against the president, though?
Well, I don't put myself in that category. My business is talking politics. That's different.
True. Yeah, you're different. You're different.
I'm not an actor who does this for a living and then just dabbles in this.
Well, then what do you think about the actors who do it?
I mean, look, it's their right to do it, you know. And
Do you think it helps or hurts?
I do think it hurts, probably in the long run. I can absolutely see the Trump voter out there saying, you know what, Gwyneth Paltrow, our lives are so much alike. But you'll excuse me while I'm putting on your $120 a jar face cream if I don't follow you word for word on politics. I mean, celebrities in general, with many notable exceptions, are blithering idiots. So, I mean, they are just the very dumb people. I mean, that's not where their talent is in the emotional area, in the dramatic area, but sometimes, you know, they can sound dumb when they're asked to comment on stuff that requires, you know, book learning and reading and stuff like that. And they just, you know, repeat cliches and talking points and stuff. Now, there are some other ones who are absolutely brilliant, and I love hearing them. I love, you know, hearing Barbra Streisand or Alec Baldwin or Ben Affleck, you know, people who are, you know, Clooney. These are news junkies. These are smart people, and then, you know, everybody should be allowed to talk.
Yeah, gotcha.
First Amendment.
Well, listen, I want to get right back to you on this, but I drove out to San Bernardino to meet with some people who live in a town that's actually been impacted by the news, impacted by a real terror attack, and I want to know what they thought about the travel ban. You might be surprised what they think when we get back. When you hear about the ban, do you hear it more as a Muslim ban or as a travel ban?
In my opinion, it is a Muslim ban. It is strictly directed at preventing a certain type of people, and in this particular case, Muslims, from coming to the States.
Welcome back to Messy Truth. I am here with my special guest, Bill Maher. Bill, I want to go back and talk about the travel ban, but from a different point of view. I drove out to San Bernardino, and that's a city, as you know, is rocked by this brutal terror attack. I wanted to talk to the people who actually live there. That's like the West Coast ground zero. What do they think about the ban? Check it out. San Bernardino, California. In December of 2015, this city was the site of an unspeakable horror. It started here at the Inland Regional Center. 2 terrorists, husband and wife, killed 14 people and wounded 22. It ended hours later right here on this stretch of road in a shootout with law enforcement that left both terrorists dead. The attack was inspired by ISIS. 5 days later,
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
And 14 months after that, President Trump issued his controversial executive order. So the Trump administration has been using this attack that happened right here in San Bernardino to justify the travel ban. I'm here to find out what do the people who actually live here think about that. I want to know, what do local Muslim military members have to say about all this?
My name is Jose Valle, and I serve in the Marine Corps.
I served in the United States Marine Corps from 1985 to 1989.
I am a commissioned officer, prior enlisted NCO, United States Army, and currently with the National Guard.
When you hear about the ban, do you hear it more as a Muslim ban or as a travel ban?
In my opinion, it is a Muslim ban. It is strictly directed at preventing a certain type of people, and in this particular case, Muslims, from coming to the States.
He's pretty much making good on his promise to, I guess, rid this country of Muslims. I mean, that's the way I see it.
I'm going to take a different point of view. Obama did have a very similar vetting process. So Donald Trump, who is our commander-in-chief, he is basically doing a 90-day travel ban. And it has to do with some internal conflicts that the countries are going through. I think it's really important for us to work together as a nation, though, and stay united.
You're an active soldier, you're a Muslim, you're a woman.
Right.
Do you think that there's any danger, regardless of what the intention is, that when you put a travel ban like this in place, that there may be some blowback that the military has to worry about?
Absolutely. It is, unfortunately, a tool that will be used for ISIS as recruitment. They're saying, you're not welcome in the United States. And if you're not welcome here, it goes back to human nature, to basic human psychology. You go, quote unquote, where the love is.
With ISIS?
Right, absolutely. You know, and that's what's really heartbreaking. And that's something that the commander-in-chief and his cabinet need to really focus upon.
I really don't see it as a situation where you know, people are going to say America's not going to let me in, so all of a sudden I'm going to sympathize with ISIS. I don't necessarily believe that's the problem. The problem is that we're not acting like America. That's the real problem. That's not the America that I fought for. That's not the America that, you know, my forefathers helped build. That's not America. That's the real problem.
You know, what's so amazing is those are three different people. They're all Muslim. One's Latino, one's black, one's Pakistani, I believe. They had completely different opinions. When we talk about Muslims, you know, it's sort of, what are we talking about?
Well, the scariest thing I heard there was when the woman said, they'll go where the love is. Go where the love is. When the love is ISIS? That should be frightening to everybody. I mean, go where the love is, you know, Valentine's Day's coming up. The guy with the biggest teddy bear, go where that love. But to go to a group that throws gay people off roofs and burns people alive and has sex slaves and believes in raping them into...
What do you think about the refugees? In other words, what you're describing something horrible, and I think everybody agrees with you. The United States also been, you know, bombing the crap out of that region. Some of them are saying, we're trying to get out of here. We want to come to the United States. We actually believe more like you.
Look,
should they be able to come?
I believe in the traditional American approach to refugees. First of all, we are a humanitarian country. We're a compassionate country. We have always let a certain number of people who probably were in the most dire situations that were going to get killed if they stayed where they were. But the policy certainly in the West can't be that we just completely empty out the Middle East. Well, but really, I mean, that's sort of what they started to do in Germany last year. Angela Merkel let in 1 million, I think, refugees from Syria. I mean, that is not a practical policy. Let me just finish, if you mind. I can see you jumping in, but what they should have done, in my view, is with that many people, create refugee centers, train them, turn them into an army so they could take over their own countries. One of the problems I have, or worries I should say, with Islam is that the moderates don't win. When was the last time the moderates got a victory? We got to create a moderate Muslim army that can go back into those countries and take on ISIS. Because I hear a lot of people joining ISIS. I never heard of one person going and, oh, let me go there and fight ISIS.
Well, I tell you what, I think that we need some more creative thinking like that. We also, fortunately, we do have a bunch of Muslims who have taken the fight to the enemy, and I want to go out in the audience and talk to one. This is an incredible story, and I want to get your, even you are going to be moved, touched, inspired.
What do you mean, even me?
I'm saying, just because, you know, sometimes you gotta understand what's happening with these guys. So listen, here's the deal.
I do.
Yeah. You are friends now, but you didn't know each other even just a few weeks ago.
Yes.
I want you to tell the story. How is it that you decided to go to the airport on the first day of the travel ban?
You know, honestly...
You're a veteran?
I'm a veteran, yes. It had nothing to do with the policy. You know, fortunately, I was raised by liberal parents, and they instilled a strong value system. And in this case, when you see something that's not right, you have a moral obligation to do something. And as a father now, I wanted to instill those same values. And so that's what got me to the airport. Do I disagree with the order? Absolutely. But that's what brought me there.
So talk about the gift that you gave to your friend.
I gave him one of the Purple Hearts that I was awarded in combat. You know, and, thanks.
What did it mean to you? You're arriving, you're somebody, you've helped America, you're somebody who was a translator and a helper for our forces in Baghdad. Your wife is coming to the United States. She's detained at the airport. What does it mean for a veteran to come and give you his Purple Heart on a day like that?
Well, Jeff's Purple Heart meant to me that right now we are going through a movement
a movement in our country that's so strong and so powerful that a wounded warrior decided to give his medal to a complete stranger, regardless of the bans and all the orders happening right now. Look, we have a lot of political contention right now going on, but on different level, on the level of people, there is another message, a message of unity as opposed to being divided.
And the takeaway that I want, the message that I want, and we left the airport, my family and I, with nothing but positive feelings. And it really instilled, not just to my kids, but to myself, that it really, one just random act of kindness really can make a difference. Yeah. And that's the message. If people leave today and everywhere, that's the message.
Beautiful. There is nothing messy about that truth. Thank you very much. Give them a big round of applause. Very good. So, I know you love stuff like that.
And if this doesn't work out, you should go up against Ellen and do a show. Just the feel-good stories for the housewives sitting there in the day.
Well, but listen, I know that these are tough issues, and you and I actually agree a lot on the need to be tough on these fundamentalists. And I think that sometimes liberals are too knock-kneed about standing up. And at the same time, I think even somebody who is very concerned about the bad part of Islam has to be excited about the good part of Islam.
Well, but the even really messier truth is that there is connecting tissue. That's the problem, is that, you know, of course, the vast majority of Muslims in the world are not terrorists and not violent and don't want to use violence. But it's not quite that small a group of people who don't, for example, cheer. What you make a face, but it's the truth. We have. I don't know why you make a face. It's.
It's called the smile.
I'm just saying. No, you went.
I was actually looking at the monitor. But go ahead.
Okay. So like when they shot up the Charlie Hebdo office because they were drawing cartoons.
Yes, it was terrible.
Okay. The vast majority of Muslims would not do that.
Absolutely.
But what percentage do you think thought, well, they had it coming and that's the right thing to do?
Well, I don't know, but what I
it's more than I'm comfortable with, or anybody should be comfortable with, and that's the problem.
I want you to stick around. We'll have more Bill Maher when the Messy Truth returns right after this. Welcome back to The Messy Truth. I am Van Jones with my guest Bill Maher. This week, CNN is premiering this original series. Is called The History of Comedy. And we've got a great look at the great George Carlin and the infamous 7 words you can never say on television.
I mean, I don't have a lot of heroes, but that guy is one of them. And when he died, the hotel he was booked at in Las Vegas called me and they said, you should do this gig. Yeah. And something I'm more proud of than almost anything. Yeah, that was.
Give him a round of applause.
Great.
Probably nobody could get to that. I mean,
because, you know, there's a guy who talked about religion before a lot of other comics did. I you know, really got a lot of my, I can do that too.
That's
watching him the way he did from Lenny Bruce. And also he was one of the few who would equal opportunity. He also had lots of things to say to the liberals. He wasn't just the liberal Heine kisser like most comics are, and he would absolutely say things that would make, you know, liberals really stand up. And you know, he was a liberal, as I am, but you know, he just always cleaved to this is what's true, and I don't care what. And the older he got, of course, the crankier, which was great because then he just went full out. I mean, they only now just showed the special that he made right after 9/11. That was deemed, you know, even for Carlin fans, this is going to be too much.
Too much. Yeah.
So.
You know, you got a lot. You're giving him a lot of credit. I want to give you a lot of credit. You got a lot of people through the Bush years, but you know, frankly, now you got the Trump years.
Oh, the Bush years. I wish. You know, I gave Obama $1 million. You know that,
yes.
Right? His PAC.
Yes.
I would happily give that $1 million right now to Mitt Romney if he would take over the country. I gave it to prevent Mitt Romney from being president.
And now you're begging
Mitt Romney to be president. Yes. I would become a Mormon. How about that? I will become a Mormon and give you $1 million, Mitt Romney, if you will please take over the country.
Oh my goodness! Well, listen, I want to thank you for that, especially, and everything else, and the incredible stuff that you're doing.
Hey, you're doing great. It's great to see you on. I mean, America needed you, Van Jones.
I appreciate you very much. I appreciate you. I want to thank my guest, Bill Maher. I want to thank my studio audience and everybody watching at home. Your turn. Keep talking at your homes, your dinner tables, your campuses, and we'll see you next time.